Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock here on a Tuesday morning. I'm Jane Monreal. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Right here at the top of the hour, as we continue to follow up on the officer-involved shooting in Mint Hill. We do know that 2 officers involved in that shooting are now recovering at home, but a suspect is now dead after what should have been a routine child custody exchange. Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden joining us this morning live in the Impact Studio. Appreciate your time. Thanks for making this stop your first one of your day. Busy day.
Good morning. Thank you.
Sheriff, so what was your reaction when you heard about this incident, and what does this tell us about the dangers of these custody battles?
Well, these are the dangers that officers face each and every day. Custody battles has a lot of emotion, and oftentimes we are not there. It's just parents meeting in the parking lot, or parents meeting at a grocery store or a secluded area like parks. And so on this incident, we don't have all the details. I don't have all the details. But custody battles are always volatile because it's a lot of emotion involved. You're meeting parents and they're exchanging the kids, and you know they may bring their significant other or other person that are in their lives that cause it to be more volatile than previous. And so we all know in law enforcement these kinds of incidents happen often. Maybe not to the death or the violence, but it always happened with controversial issues between the parents.
I mean, the county does have at least one solution. They have the supervised visitation and safe exchange since 2014. Do you know if people are using this, and what can be another solution for safe exchanges?
Some people are using it, but we asking them to do it even more. When I was with CMPD, we actually had the exchange in the parking lot between the building and the parking deck. And so people feel safe. The person who's handing off the child feels safe. But oftentimes, the other person wants to meet someplace else where they can have this conversation, they can have this argument, and really bring them to an isolated area to say and do whatever they want to do. So we're asking people to think about where you're meeting this other person.
Yeah, I mean, so we do know Jamel Hamlin, second, was killed in the incident right now. Do you have any information on any priors about this man?
No, I don't. I don't at this time.
All right. So, all right, moving on then. I want to shift to another tragedy occurring that same day of the Mitt Hill officer-involved shooting. Your office announcing the death of Jason Hicks, a 42-year-old man who was in custody at the detention center. Can you walk us through what happened on that morning, the day after Christmas?
Well, we can't give you the details of the actual incident, but Mr. Hicks was discovered having complication, and our medical staff responded and saw that he was in a crisis, and then they transported him to the medical facility where he passed. But what we tell people, we want the audience to understand, these deaths does not happen at the hands of my deputies or my officers. People come to our facility in poor health, having conditions that are unknown to them before they arrive, or they come with a condition. You know, we have expecting mothers, females, to come to our facility, begin to have a crisis of birth. We transport them to the hospital, the baby is born, and then they come back to the facility. And you have to understand that we are not a medical facility, we are a detention center. So most of these people come in with long-term diseases, long-term crisis, with medical equipment attached to them, and we still have to take care of them.
We know that the SBI is investigating as standard procedure. What specifically do they look at? I know your office is cooperating with them as well.
What they do is look at actually the scene where the person died, or the scene previous where he died, which is the detention center. So they start an investigation just as a death investigation to make sure that everything was followed. They interview our deputies, they interview the staff who was around, the medical staff, and then they look into the actual person's life, what he was arrested for, charges, and all of that, just as you would do if a person dies somewhere else. So they're just doing the protocol of the investigation.
And I mean, this happening, of course, during the holidays even makes that more heartbreaking, and notifying the families in the case. And this also brings up a bigger picture, Sheriff, about evictions of residents during the holidays. Talk to me a little bit about what your office is seeing.
Well, the holiday season is always filled with emotion, a lot of joy, but then also a lot of pain. And so during our holiday season, a lot of people are evicted from their home. I believe that the Monday after Christmas, we evicted over 198 people from their homes. This past Monday, we had another large eviction where it was 180 plus people. So my deputies are going to these homes and evicting people out of their homes during the holiday season. That is a lot of emotion for my deputies, mentally and physically, but it's also a lot of emotion for the residents who are now homeless and on the streets, or living in their vehicles, or just living under a bridge, or just living with loved ones. So it brings a lot of stress and strain to the person being evicted, but also mental strain on my deputies.
And why are they being evicted?
Well, they can't pay their rent, failure of their jobs, you know, they just can't make the rent, as they say. And because of that, the landlords file these papers, go to court, go through the necessary steps with the clerk of court, and then the clerk of court issues the writ, and then we have to evict them.
And so I know you've seen even larger numbers of these types of evictions. And we know on the other side in the court system, or say the landlord, they go through, they jump through hoops trying to get, you know, the proper process going on proper evictions. What is it, you know, that can bridge the gap into helping folks out?
Well, I think it's funding, and then we all talk about affordable housing. People run their candidacy on affordable housing. And we need to find some type of mechanism to allow people to work and provide for their families. And what that is, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that if we do not find a solution, we're going to continue to see people being evicted. And how does that fall into the crime industry? When we say industry, we're just talking about crime. When everybody talking about crime and why is crime up? Well, when you have 187 people evicted from their home, somebody is going to do whatever it takes to support their family and maybe turn to the life of crime, supporting their family, feeding their family, and clothing their family. And they're desperate. And so we talk about evictions as a small entity, but it is a large entity because evictions cause homelessness and also could potentially boost the crime.
So obviously systemic, and one of those issues that is indicative of what's happening on a bigger scale.
Absolutely.
The broader context here then is, what do you do from a law enforcement side? And you said that your officers and deputies are kind of burnt out during this time. What do you do from what you can from your position?
Well, we tell them to actually, I talked to my officers yesterday, make sure that you take care of your mental state and your physical state. Take a break, take vacation, take sick leave, take some time off. Just to get yourself together, and don't try to work as much off duty as you possibly can. Just the holiday season, trying to make money, but make sure that you take care of yourself mentally and physically so you can come back to work in a great mental and physical state.
How short-staffed are you? Are you looking to hire in 26?
We're always looking to hire. We're always wanting to hire. So we're not as short as people believe that we are. But here's what happens. When the population inside a detention center goes up, as it has in the last couple of months, then we require more staffing. We're always going to need more staffing to adequately support the people who are incarcerated. So when we're talking about, we're 200 short, no, we're less than 100 people short. And so we are doing well, but also we need to do better to give our staff a break, lunch break, meal breaks, and just their breaks, and give them time where if they have to leave for a couple of days, we do have enough staff to support that. So we're always looking to hire. So anybody wants to be hired, you can look on our website, and we'll be glad to look at your application.
Okay, very good. Can we talk about the detention center? Just circle back a little bit more. It's obviously face scrutiny, like in many big cities. The detention centers face scrutinies with growing cities and growing crime. What reforms or changes have been implemented to improve the situation there as far as detention center goes?
Well, let me say this. A lot of people bring the idea or opinions of the detention center. Most people have not even come to our detention center to see how we operate. We are what they call a triple crown, and I'm always going to say that. We are a triple crown, and we have more accreditations than any other sheriff's office in North Carolina and South Carolina. And so we are nationally recognized for our detention center. When we say triple crown, there are approximately 3,089 sheriff's offices in America, but only 52 have the triple crown, and we are one of these facilities that have the triple crown. When we talk about accreditation, we are a fully accredited detention center. So when we're talking about issues inside the detention center, they're no different than whatever is going on across America. We just sensationalize it and highlight it because of the detention center in Mecklenburg County. But we're operating well, we're operating efficiently, and we do have problems just like anybody else. When we're talking about the detention center, are we speaking about suicides? We have suicides attempt every single week, but they are interrupted by my staff. So we're operating well, but what happens is we take the old news and completely bring it forward and continuously to say that we are operating a bad detention center or an inefficient detention center. That is not the case. We are operating well. Do we have crisis? Yes. We are taking in people who are in crisis on the street. Again, homelessness, drug addiction, substance abuse. All of these people are housed inside a detention center. We do have issues with attempted suicides. We do have issues of addiction. All of those come with who we are housing inside our detention center. But we are a well-established, well-ran detention center, and I invite anyone to come down and see it.
All right, appreciate then you setting the record straight that the detention center is running efficiently there. As we move into the new year, do you have a message for families, viewers watching this morning, Sheriff?
Take time with your family. Take time with yourself. Take time of your mental health. Mental health is the biggest issue that we are facing now. With what we see on TV, what we see in social media, we bring a crisis in our life each and every day. I just want to take time to think about yourself, your mental and physical abilities, capabilities, but make sure that you take care of your mental health. That is the main focus I want people to look at in the coming year. Social media can drive you one way or another. People look at social media and believe anything that they see on social media, and it generates negativity in their lives. Step back for a while, take a break, and let's have a great new year.
All right, let's do it. Sheriff Gary McFadden coming in from Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. We appreciate your time, and hopefully you have a good new year as well. And
I certainly will.
Take
Thank
a little
you.
mental break as well.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to be right back and regroup here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Check your weather when we get back. Back here now at 9:15, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. The sun is out, but jackets are as well. Our Chris Mulcahy finally this report earlier on the Plus.
Sometimes it's nice just to figure out where the bottom is. Do you know what? Up from here. That's exactly what we have for today's high. Not necessarily our lows. Tomorrow morning I think is going to be just as cold, if not colder. But I think the nice silver lining that we have here is that we got a little golden line across the horizon. Officially it's 7:31. Sunrise time. We got sunshine all day long. Yep, that's right. I got to bust out my all-day sunshine graphic. Usually when I'm showing you this, the number in the sun is a little bit higher. But instead 45 is going to be our top. And as I mentioned, that is the bottom for the week. Our wind alerts officially have dropped off. They cut off that high wind warning early. Some parts were going until 10 o'clock, but we can say that is now gone because no longer it's reaching the criteria, nor is it reaching the wind advisory criteria. However, even with those winds and those temperatures that are down into the teens, we still have a cold weather advisory for Avery, Watauga, and Ashe County. That means there's still a chance of it feeling like 5 below zero or colder. So here's the criteria, by the way. If you're ever going to be under one of these in the mountains, it's for that reason alone. If you live around Hickory, Lincoln, Salisbury, Rowan County, Iredell County, if it's 5 or less in the forecast, you're going to have a cold weather advisory. Charlotte is the max, 10 degrees or less, and then we'll have one of those. We've had one of those so far this season. Our highs today, 45, as I mentioned, is going to be the coldest. 27, that's your top around Boone. That's close to our low here in Charlotte. And then sunshine across the board with an on and off wind chill about 5 degrees colder than the actual air temperature. And if you're heading out for some evening eats, maybe tacos, that's what we're having. I'm very excited, always excited about the Alliteration Taco Tuesday. 36 feels like 33, 35 feels like 30, so that means throughout the evening it'll feel about 2 to 5 degrees cooler if you're caught in that wind, especially say in an open parking lot. Later on this evening, I think once the tacos have been consumed and maybe you're having a taco nap, you're dealing with clouds starting to increase through the overnight, and that's going to lead to a decrease for another sunny start for your Wednesday. The last Wednesday, the last day of the year, few clouds for the afternoon, and then we are closing 2025's book in a good way. Tomorrow we have a high of 53. For the first day of 2026, can't believe I'm saying that, 2026, 60 degrees with an above freezing start. But here's what New Year's Eve looks like. Temperatures are going to be right around 40 degrees. I think a lot of us in the upper 30s certainly feeling that way as we're chiming in the new year, but likely your New Year's Eve party is going to be indoors. As far as our next rain chance goes, I think we have an equal chance on Friday night heading into Saturday morning, and then outside of that, we don't have another rain chance until about day 9 or 10 of the forecast. Our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast shows, again, this is the coldest day, and then all the other days over the next 7 will be 8 to 15 degrees warmer than what we have today. Enjoy it.
All right, we will have, that was Destiny Richards, you saw a peek there, but she's covering the tragic story, confirmation of the death of the father of Denny Hamlin, in that tragic fire that happened over the weekend in Gaston County. That's coming up after the break. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. It's 9:21. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. Another tragedy in the NASCAR family. We have learned that the father of Denny Hamlin, Dennis Hamlin, did indeed die in a tragic house fire, fire owned by the two parents. Initially, they were able to escape the flames, but as our Destiny Richards lets us know on the WCNC Plus earlier this morning, it was just too much, and so he did succumb to his injuries. The latest from Destiny Richards in Gaston County.
Yeah, the NASCAR community is rallying around Denny Hamlin and his family this morning and remembering Dennis Hamlin for being a big supporter and also for the sacrifices that he made to help his son become one of the most successful drivers in the sport. Now, Dennis Hamlin is being remembered as a driving force behind his son's racing career long before Denny Hamlin ever reached NASCAR's top level. His parents made significant personal sacrifices, taking out multiple mortgages and selling cars, all to keep their son's racing dream alive. That support helped Denny Hamlin go on to win 60 NASCAR Cup Series races and become one of the sport's top competitors for nearly 2 decades. Now the loss is being felt not just by family, but by neighbors, NASCAR fans, and the racing community as a whole.
It's a very tragic situation. I mean, and also for the NASCAR community. I mean, you just had Greg Biffle and his wife and family just pass, and then now this.
And we've seen words of support pour in across social media, but Denny Hamlin himself has not yet commented. Now, the cause of the fire that claimed his father's life is also still under investigation. Live in Uptown, I'm Desi Richards, WCNC Charlotte.
And as we continue to cover the fire and the investigation and the impact of Dennis Hamlin, our Logan Campbell also spoke to our Julie Kay here on Live Impact News yesterday afternoon, remembering the impact of Denny's father.
Welcome back to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. I'm Julie Kay here, now joined by WFMY's Logan Campbell. And Logan, thank you for hopping on last minute, obviously under this tragic situation. But your expertise here in sports, I think, is going to really help us paint a picture of how tragic this is. I was just talking to one of our digital producers, Nathaniel, a bit earlier about how involved the families are in the NASCAR community. So I would love just to get your initial thoughts as someone who has covered this firsthand.
Julie Kay, I just wish I was joining on better circumstances. This has been such a tough month in the world of racing with this happening and then Greg Biffle happening earlier this month. It has truly just been so terrible. And, I think right now the racing community is just trying to wrap their heads around the 2 devastating tragedies that have happened over these last couple of weeks. Obviously with the news that Denny Hamlin's dad did die in this house fire. It's terrible. I've been scrolling through social media and I've seen multiple current NASCAR drivers tweeting out, just giving their thoughts and prayers to the Hamlin family. Connor Zilisch just tweeted out what a horrible few weeks it's been for our racing community. Kyle Larson, another prolific name in NASCAR, tweeted out, our thoughts and prayers are with the Hamlin family and their loved ones. And one thing that I've seen from all these drivers is just how loved Denny's dad was in the racing community. I know that you've mentioned a few times, I've been listening in, Julie Kay, and you said just how tight-knit the racing community is, and they truly are. Their families become everyone's family. They know everything about the dads, the mothers, the wives, the siblings, the kids, and when something happens to someone in the racing community, it affects everyone.
Now, I know you're already kind of seeing reaction from the NASCAR community on social media. Of course, we knew when this fire initially happened that it was owned by the Hamlin family, and this is just a tragic update that we were, all hoping to not get. We also, though, have not heard from the Hamlin family themselves. So for you, as someone who reports on this, what is your next step in terms of who do you reach out to? Who do you talk to someone about the legacy that Dennis Hamlin will leave behind?
Yeah, I think, you obviously are going to respect and wait for Denny to release his own statement. He was one of the first people to speak out when Greg Biffle passed away a few weeks ago. So I'm sure he will release a statement over the next coming days. NASCAR did release a statement. Let me pull that up for a second and read what they said. But they released a statement about his death. And you're just waiting to see what other drivers start pouring in. You contact people that race with Denny, his crew chief, people that work very closely with him, just about the impact, because his dad was very much so involved in his career. There's been countless times. Denny has never shied away from talking about his dad and how much of an impact his dad has had on his career. You know, a few years ago, he came out and said, I wouldn't be in this position in the NASCAR Cup Series if it wasn't for my dad. His dad took out the loan on their house in Virginia. He maxed credit cards because racing is such an expensive sport, but he poured everything he could into Denny Hamlin and his racing career to help him get to where he is today and give him all those resources. And, you know, it's just, obviously as a dad, you want your son to be successful, and you know, Denny has spent so much time giving back to his dad, so I just can't even imagine what his family is going through right now, especially with Christmas just wrapping up and the New Year coming through. I just can't even imagine. So you want to respect their privacy and wait a little bit, but you also want to just see how everyone on that team is feeling at this time.
Yeah.
We're going to put a pause in that recorded interview between our Logan Campbell and Julie Kay, continuing the conversation of Dennis Hamlin and his impact to the Hamlin family and, of course, NASCAR. We need to take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Just hitting 9:30 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal, where we bring you the latest local, state, and national, as well as world headlines to you as they come into the newsroom, as well as live interviews and conversations. Right now, we are scheduled to have one as we head into what is expected to be the busiest decade for travel in American history. It's dubbed the mega decade, projected to be a once-in-a-generation tourism boom, fueled by events like FIFA World Cup. We have America's 250th anniversary, and of course the Olympics, which you can see right here on WCNC Charlotte. Joining me right now, Regina Lewis, consumer analyst and travel industry expert. Hi, Regina. Good morning to you.
Hello. Thank you.
So there's this new poll, right, from U.S. Travel Association showing what travelers want in this mega decade of travel. What are your takeaways from this?
Well, it's really interesting. They did a deep dive, and what struck me the most is how receptive people are to cutting-edge technology, especially if it speeds things up. And I have to tell you, Charlotte is really on the front end of this. So when I look at it nationwide, Charlotte really is out in front with the use of things like biometrics, which means it's facial recognition, or 3D CT scanning for your luggage, which is the medical equivalent of a CAT scan for your carry-on. And And because it is such an international hub, it is really in an enviable position to capitalize on the mega decade of travel.
Yeah, just having gone through Charlotte Douglas and going through the facial recognition myself, I was like, oh, wow, all right, go Charlotte Douglas, doing your thing.
Yeah.
So travelers want efficiency, they want speed. Talk to us about this mega decade of travel. Explain to us what this is and what the boom can actually be.
Sure. So what's happening is the convergence of multiple trends. Over the next 5 years, the kinds of volume that we are accustomed to seeing around holidays, think right now, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, in roughly 5 years, that would be the new norm, just based on demographic trends and the appetite for experiences over things. Demographics play right into that. Then layer on top of it, the U.S. hosting a series of global events. You spelled them out at the top. Now big gets bigger. So what's happening at Charlotte, and hence the capital investment that you've witnessed firsthand, is a readiness exercise, right? We don't need to stress test it anymore. Now we need to scale it and have the infrastructure to make busy manageable, because it's going to be the new norm. And I'm sure you have a savvy sense for this, make no mistake, states and airports compete for tourism in Charlotte alone, right? It accounts for visitors, $9 billion with a B in annual spending. 1 out of 9 jobs are related to hospitality. So that's incredibly significant. And heading into this summer, which is the official start of the mega decade of travel, just imagine the position Charlotte is in if you can capture some of those people coming into this country. International travelers spend 8x, 8 times more than domestic travelers. They come into Charlotte, maybe they're headed to a game, and while Charlotte isn't a host city, it's very much embraced soccer. If they stayed an extra day and around events, people coming in from other countries tend to make those multi-city, they do something called event stacking, right? They're here, they're going to do multiple things. So if you can take that layover, and Charlotte Regional Tourism is certainly trying for this, and get them to stay a couple of days, just imagine the upside.
Yeah, no, we are excited to see that in this growing city with so much to do as well. So, looking at the elements of what can happen at the airport to make things smarter and faster, how are people feeling about the screenings, the facial recognition, the AI, if you will?
Yep. Well, I think that was the biggest takeaway from the survey, is people are really saying bring it, especially, obviously safety is a must, but speed matters. And when you are talking about the difference between twice as fast, it sounds like you have some firsthand experience. My new favorite is TSA PreCheck touchless ID. So a lot of people familiar with TSA PreCheck, the familiar green check mark. Now there's something called the touchless ID version. American Airlines piloted it in Charlotte, and all you have to do is take a picture of your passport on your airline app. It takes 2 minutes. And then you will see both a facial icon next to that pre-check, and boom, you're in that lane. And I've tested it lots of places. That's nearly empty. So an incredible thing to take advantage of. I'd encourage anybody home looking ahead to the new year, do that now. You only have to do it once and it'll work every time.
All right, very good. You have a top tip for 2026 travel going into a busy decade?
Well, I love your attitude about it. I do think we want to be hospitable, right? The U.S. has a vested interest in meeting this moment in time. I think you use AI for travel planning. You mentioned that as well. If you're not up for it, find the nearest young person. And then watch for lounges to have a bigger and bigger role. It just happened in our house. My son said, can you take me to the airport now? And I thought, your flight's not till this evening. Is it me? Why do you want to leave early? And then I looked, hanging out at the lounge. So what's going to start to happen, and Charlotte has 6 of them, is the airports themselves are going to become destinations. And that's why you see an airport renaissance across the country.
I do enjoy a good airport lounge, I gotta say. All right, Regina Lewis, a good deal as people are getting excited, and hopefully that optimism is when we go through the long lines at TSA, because not everyone's going to be pre-check. But when we're there traveling, and hopefully it's
getting faster.
For good times, getting faster. Appreciate your time this morning. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.
You too. And we'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 9:38. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I want to get you back out to the recorded interview. It happened yesterday, so previously here on Live Impact News with our Julie Kay talking to WFMY's Logan Campbell, as Logan covers NASCAR a lot, and remembering the father of Denny Hamlin, who was confirmed to have passed away in that tragic house fire in Gaston County on Sunday. Here's more of that interview for you now on WCNC Plus.
Respect and wait for Denny to release his own statement. You know, he was one of the first people to speak out when Greg Biffle passed away a few weeks ago, so I'm sure he will release a statement over the next coming days. NASCAR did release a statement. Let me pull that up for a second and read what they said. But they released a statement about his death, and you're just waiting to see what other drivers start pouring in. You contact people that race with Denny, his crew chief, people that work very closely with him, just about the impact, because his dad was very much so involved in his career. There's been countless times. Denny has never shied away from talking about his dad and how much of an impact his dad has had on his career. You know, a few years ago, he came out and said, I wouldn't be in this position in the NASCAR Cup Series if it wasn't for my dad. His dad took out the loan on their house in Virginia. He maxed credit cards because racing is such an expensive sport, but he poured everything he could into Denny Hamlin and his racing career to help him get to where he is today and give him all those resources. And, you know, it's just, obviously as a dad, you want your son to be successful, and you know, Denny has spent so much time giving back to his dad, so I just can't even imagine what his family is going through right now, especially with Christmas just wrapping up and the New Year coming through. I just can't even imagine. So you want to respect their privacy and wait a little bit, but you also want to just see how everyone on that team is feeling at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a touchy situation. And you've touched on this a few times too, but 2 weeks now after the death of Greg Biffle and his family, I'm sure this is just compounding into a whole terrible amount of grief in the community. Where does NASCAR go from here? This is not just to NASCAR legends, but also to really important people in the North Carolina community.
Right. That's a great question, Julie Kay, because I don't know. Obviously, these are such tragic events that you don't ever see happening. A house fire and a plane crash, and you never know when it is going to be your last day. And I think, NASCAR will start by paying tributes, doing certain things to pay their respects, not only to Dennis Hamlin, Denny's dad, but also to Greg Biffle and his family. They're starting to slowly start doing things for the Biffle family, and I'm sure they're going to do everything they can and pay their respects to Dennis however Denny sees fit. But of course, everyone just is taking the time to process this, because it's just two horrific, unexpected things that have happened back to back, it seems like.
Logan, I know this is a developing situation. I mean, we just got this in the last 45 minutes or so into our newsroom, and so there's a lot of questions that remain, and it's kind of hard to talk about when it's so heartbreaking but also so fresh. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you think people need to know about the situation, or that you just want to get out there?
I think the one thing that, is kind of people are holding on to is his mom. Although she is in critical condition, she is in a hospital in Winston-Salem. You want to think positively and think that everything's going to be okay with her. But of course, like you said, this is a developing situation. So, thoughts and prayers are just really with the Hamlin family, and hoping that Denny's mom does end up being okay and does end up stabilizing. But right now she is in critical condition. NASCAR did release a statement. They have a whole article online, just talking about how much Denny's dad poured into his career to help get him to where he is today, and just the impact that he's had not only with Denny but with the sport and with several other drivers in the sport. So it's a really great article just to read up on the type of man that he is. And of course, I'm sure on your guys' newscast tonight and on WFMI's as well, we'll talk a little bit about just the impact that he's had on NASCAR.
I also, as someone who's not a sports expert, something I've learned over the past couple of weeks covering this from the news side of this is how unique NASCAR is in that way of how it's structured, it being so family oriented. The families are so involved. And so, I mean, you touched on it so many times, but I know that this is an impact that's going to reach multiple other drivers as well, and multiple other families here too. So this is just tragic on so many levels.
Right, and unfortunately in NASCAR, it's just part of life, like the parents do end up passing at some point, and no matter how or when, we always see the drivers rallying together, posting social statements just about how great of a human being that man or woman was, not only to their son, but to the racing community, like you just said. As I'm constantly refreshing Twitter, I just see more drivers posting just about how great of a man Dennis Hamlin was and how he's going to be so missed, just being in the pit, walking up and down, saying hi to everyone before races, during practices. He truly was someone that was so involved in the sport and getting to know these drivers and the crew chiefs and just everyone that worked in NASCAR. So it really is not only a loss for Denny Hamlin, but the entire sport itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan, I know you've got a lot to do to put this together for your own newscast, so we'll let you go. But thank you so much for joining us on short notice, and good luck in your coverage of this tragic situation.
Thank you so much.
And of course, we'll continue to follow any developments or statements or reaction from the community as well as the Hamlin family. We're going to take a quick break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be right back. Back now at 9:47 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus as we round out the last day and a half of 2025. If you remember, a terrorist attack occurring in the early hours of New Year's Day in New Orleans, where someone intentionally drove through barriers into and onto Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing 14 people. And as a result, New Orleans mayor, as well as law enforcement, conducting a press conference on the safety of folks wanting to celebrate and ring in 2026. This previously recorded on WCNC Plus. We're going to play this back for you now here on Live Impact News.
Morning, even in the mayor's briefing this afternoon, that it is imperative that they take care of themselves while also taking care of one another, and that's what I'm actually calling on all of us to do. You have to move in the spirit of unity and not one of an expectation is that your people who respond can somehow shake it off and forget. They carry it all with them. And with that, and as I tell them as well, these are the same people that we've depended on who respond again over and over and over again. They're not superheroes. They're just people who understand that we need one another. People need people, and they've answered the call to serve in this magnitude, and we should all be grateful, as I am here, not only today, but into the future. So with that, you're going to hear from leadership, hear from our public safety leadership relative to how we are prepared. I want to encourage our residents and visitors, again, if you see something, say something. And in the moment, it matters. It saves lives. And again, we've learned from that. For trusted information, always, always go to, 1, the City of New Orleans, who is the official communicator for our city, but also NOLA Ready. And encouraging all people to sign up for NOLA Ready by texting all one word NOLA Ready to 77295. As I mentioned earlier, we're leveraging all of our law enforcement resources and public safety partners like we always do, but absolutely taking in what we experienced almost 1 year ago. And I believe that we've proven again since that time how we have gone the extra mile to ensure the safety again of our residents as well as our visitors. I'm going to now ask, and I'll start with our Director of Homeland Security, Colin Arnold. I'm going to take you through other leaders who will share words, and I'll interject, as I normally do as we move through this press conference. And then we will come with questions. You will be able to ask questions, and of course we will answer. But at this time, Colin, I think this is a good time for you to take it.
Thank you.
And then I'll pass it on to Chief Hans.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. New Year's Eve and the All-State Sugar Bowl are signature moments for New Orleans, bringing residents and visitors together to celebrate the city's culture, traditions, and ring in the new year. As we approach the one-year anniversary of the Bourbon Street attack, we continue to keep the victims, their families, and everyone affected in our thoughts. Our collective priority is ensuring residents and visitors can celebrate safely, while local, state, and federal partners work closely behind the scenes to anticipate and address any potential safety risks. In advance of New Year's Eve and Sugar Bowl, NOSEP convened a multi-agency public safety tabletop exercise at Gallier Hall to review coordination, communication, and response procedures for large-scale events. We in the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness serve as the coordination hub to support information sharing and resource efforts if needed, and we will be activated in the city's Emergency Operations Center, monitoring citywide operations from Wednesday, December 31st through that Friday, January 2nd, Friday morning. Throughout our activation period, we'll work closely with our local, state, and federal partners to maintain situational awareness throughout the city. As you know, we were designated by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as a SEER, or Special Event Rating, SEER 3 for New Year's Eve and Sugar Bowl. We thought that this was low initially, and then certainly in the past few weeks after the wide-ranging investigation that the federal government's doing into some extremist groups in California that has a link to Louisiana. There was someone in Louisiana potentially coming to New Orleans to do harm. We asked for the Department of Homeland Security to reevaluate that SEER 3 ranking and evaluate us higher, which opens us up to more official federal support. That was denied. We remain a SEER 3. I'm happy to say, though, that we've developed a lot of relationships and coordination with our local federal partners here in the city over the years. We were having discussions about 2 weeks ago about Mardi Gras, which is the major weekend of Mardi Gras is a SEER 1. And our federal partners have really stepped up and are offering resources outside of the official SEER rating that we'll have. And I can tell you that that's, whether it be the Coast Guard providing aviation support, patrol boats, and shoreside patrols. They're doing that. Federal partners stepping up with more personnel and law enforcement resources. So, in addition, we've got a huge contingent of state police and state law enforcement and National Guard and all hands on deck with the New Orleans Police Department. I did a tally during our briefing, and it appears that we're going to have close to 800 law enforcement downtown and in the French Quarter, and I think that's going to be outstanding. You're going to see an incredible visual presence in the French Quarter and throughout downtown over the rest of this week. Local, state, and federal partners will continue to work closely together to ensure the appropriate preparedness, coordination, and situational awareness throughout the event period. I'd like to talk a little about public safety and crowd awareness. First of all, there will be a temporary flight restriction over downtown and the stadium at different times throughout New Year's night into New Year's Day morning, and then the traditional flight restriction around the Superdome and that complex basically during the game hours. All this to say is, don't bring drones down to the French Quarter, recreational or hobbyist drones, to fly them. It creates a little bit of public awareness and problem, and they will have law enforcement resources from both the local and state level that will be monitoring drone activity. And a temporary flight restriction is a federal guideline or a federal enforcement action, and you could lose your privileges to operate that drone in the future should you violate one of those temporary flight restrictions. We ask everyone when in large crowds to remain aware of their surroundings and look out for one another. If you see something, say something, and report suspicious activity to one of the many public officials that will be around. We all have interoperable radios. We can all communicate with each other. If it's a non-emergency suspicion, call the NOPD's non-emergency line, 504-821-2222. Of course, if it's an emergency, call 911. We're also monitoring the weather, as we always do. We're monitoring cold weather conditions tonight and tomorrow night. Happy to say, though, that our briefing from the National Weather Service indicated that some of the winds that you're seeing out there today will be gone by the 31st, and temperatures will be increasing, and we're actually looking at a New Year's Day possibly in the mid to upper 60s. So just pay attention for these first couple nights. If you're out and about, dress accordingly. In coordination with partner agencies, we are working to expand our shelter capacity in the traditional homeless shelters tonight and tomorrow night. And we will put a city warming center on standby if needed. Temperatures are forecast to be warm by Wednesday. I mentioned that. As far as transportation and travel, traffic and transit buses and streetcars will be impacted, particularly in the French Quarter and the CBD. Check out norta.com to be advised of those updates. They also have a really good app. We encourage residents to plan ahead and use public transportation, rideshare, bicycles, and walking, and allow extra travel time. NOLA Ready is the city's official emergency communication system and will be used to share updates if needed. Residents and visitors should follow us on social media at NOLA Ready or text NOLA Ready, one word, NOLA Ready, to 77295. One last thing I'll say. It was a difficult decision, but public safety is paramount to us, particularly this time of year and what we are remembering that happened last year, and we want to get this right. There was some issue about Crescent Park potentially being open for fireworks until 12:30. We've spoken as a public safety group and with the mayor's support. Crescent Park will close at 6:30 on its regular schedule. There's some lighting issues there. There's some security issues there that we're not going to take any chances opening up an entire other venue when it's not ready. We can look next year, we can talk about this in the future, but for this year, and we understand some residents will be upset. That's a particular place I've been before for New Year's fireworks as a resident of the city. We understand, but we've got a job to do public safety-wise this year. It's very important to us. We've taken this very hard, and we want to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Blame it on me. A decision that I had to make, and definitely know that it's the right decision to make relative to Crescent Park at this time. And so we want all, residents as well as visitors to adhere to the timelines that we put in place for the operations of Crescent Park. At this time, I'm going to ask Chief Hans with the New Orleans Police Department to bring forth his brief. Chief?
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon. As we approach New Year's Eve and the Sugar Bowl, NOPD is once again ready for this event. You'll see a lot of officers out there. We will be deploying some 450 officers on our own. You'll see bike patrols, you'll see marked vehicles, you'll see tactical units, you'll see mounted units, and you'll see motorcycles out there. We're also partnering up with our state, federal, and local partners. We'll have the National Guard manning the interior closures to the quarter, and also the state police will also be assisting in mobile patrols and also for visibility. We ask that everyone who, as the message has been said before, that sees something to please grab a law enforcement personnel or anyone you can, no matter how little you think it is. We will be there. We will respond to that. My officers have been briefed to handle all situations. Don't take it lightly. Investigate. So if the public sees something wrong, please let them know. We also have the Emergency Operations Center will be manned also, and the RTCC. We'll also be deploying our drones. So one of the things that we will let you know is that our drones will be going to calls for service, video, watching through video if that's a real call, or is that some call that we don't need to send officers to, therefore keeping our officers on their assignment. So that is something new we are doing. Officers are trained to remain vigilant, and we ask the public to do the same. Of course, it was said earlier, if you're going to a destination, plan early, plan to get there on time. We will also be monitoring traffic. If traffic is too heavy, we will shut down traffic going into the quarter and on Canal Street. So we ask you to please, again, make sure you can get to your destination on time. As far as public safety, we ask everyone, as usual, travel in groups, use ride-share services, and please follow officer directions if needed. If you need assistance, officers are visible and positioned to help. So with that said, we want everybody to have a good time, but we also want you to be vigilant, and we ask you to please, watch the amount of alcohol you consume. Thank you. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for that. And so we're going to keep it going. I'm going to ask now Chief Samaran EMS to come forth. Come on up, Chief. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. New Orleans EMS stands ready for New Year's Eve and Sugar Bowl. We will go to full staffing on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and have enhanced citywide and special event coverage throughout that time. We welcome everyone to the city and ask that you celebrate responsibly. As you've already heard, be aware of your surroundings. Don't drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Remember that fireworks are illegal in the city. I'm sure Superintendent Roman will talk about that. Please go see the fireworks displays that will be available, but definitely, please don't pop fireworks on your own. And also call 911 for police, fire, and medical emergencies. On behalf of New Orleans EMS, we wish everyone a happy and safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And just a perfect segue, we're going to ask Chief Nelson come forward, New Orleans Fire Department. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon. New Orleans Fire Department wants everybody to have a safe and happy New Year's and get through this cold snap we're having. This cold snap coming up is of particular concern to us from the fire department side as always, because we always see a spike in fires when we get these bitter cold snaps. And so we really want everyone to be safe and take precautions. I want to start by urging residents not to use stoves and ovens to heat their homes. It increases the fire risk and it increases the carbon monoxide risk. So please do not use those devices to warm your home. For tips on staying warm in your home safely, you can go to our website, NOLA.gov/NOFD, and look under our fire safety tips. As always, we say it all the time, working smoke alarms save lives. If you need a smoke alarm, call us, 504-658-4714, or again, you can go to our website, NOLA.gov/NOFD, and sign up to get a smoke alarm installed to help give yourself that extra safety for you and your family throughout this cold snap and just throughout the rest of our winter season, as always. And the NOFD will provide and install a smoke alarm free of charge to any residents of New Orleans Parish. We want to remind everyone that unpermitted burning is illegal in Orleans Parish. We've recently had incidents of illegal burning under bridges and overpasses that have severely damaged our infrastructure. So we really want everyone to know that our public safety team is going to be active in enforcement throughout this cold snap and throughout the winter season. We'll be working together to monitor those areas and responding very quickly to deal with any fires in those areas. So please, if you see something in one of those areas, call it in so that we can respond. Individuals who are unhoused and in need of warmth during this cold weather snap, please, we encourage you, use one of our local shelters. Nate and Office of Homeless Services does a tremendous job in working with the shelters to make sure that they have capacity and there are warm beds for everyone that needs them. So please take advantage of those opportunities during this cold weather snap. Now, as we get into New Year's Eve and Sugar Bowl, the New Orleans Fire Department, our special operations teams will be working with the incoming federal responders. Our special ops team will be on standby working with them to help out wherever needed. We will be staffed up in the hospitality zone, the French Quarter, downtown, as well as throughout the rest of the city to handle any events that come up and respond as needed. As Chief Salmeron mentioned, fireworks are illegal in Orleans Parish. They significantly increase the risk of injury and of fires in residences. So please, as Chief Salmeron mentioned, leave the fireworks to the professionals. Amateur uses of fireworks is dangerous, and there are no such thing as safe fireworks. Sparklers, aerial rockets, we see a tremendous increase in injuries every year from people using them during these types of seasons during New Year and 4th of July, so please just don't use them. Just last New Year's, we had 2 separate 2-alarm fires that ended up in 16 New Orleans residents being displaced from their homes. So we take this very seriously.
All right, and that was a huge chunk of last night's press conference out of New Orleans as they prepare visitors and the like for a New Year's Eve celebration to be a safe one going into 2026. We're going to go into a 2-minute break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be right back. At 10:08, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, this Saturday, an important game between the Panthers and Tampa Bay Bucks. They are in Tampa trying to clinch the NFC South Division, and winner takes all on Saturday, moving on to the playoffs. So, here on WCNC Plus, we have got you covered all week long, every night. Starting last night, we have a special Panthers on the Plus at 9 o'clock. We usually do this only on Mondays and Thursdays, but this week it is all week with our Nick Carboni and Danielle Stein. Then starting on Friday, we will be live in Tampa on WCNC Plus as well as WCNC Charlotte. Danielle Stein will be with the team and making that run for the playoffs. And then on Saturday, get this, we are inviting you to watch the game with us here on WCNC Plus. This is for a Panthers on the Plus game night watch party.
It's a party.
It's a party, y'all. We've got pizza coming in.
Yeah, we got pizza.
Oh, I am going to be here. Because I'm
won't
gonna
be here, but I'll have you. Can you save me a slice?
I'll save you a slice. Is that part of your policy?
Yeah.
She likes people to bring her food when
It's
people
true.
get food. And starting at 4 o'clock, what do we're gonna have Nick. We're gonna have Julian from Locked On.
Miles Harris.
Miles Harris, who's
Jeb
covered sports.
Goldman.
Jeb Goldman, producer extraordinaire.
Nick and Eugene, I believe.
Yeah,
Carboni's
going to be here.
Yep.
Yep, Eugene. They're going to be talking X's and O's. And, I might pop my head in.
What more could you want?
We could want a Carlene to pop her head but it's not going to happen. She needs her day off.
I need a day off.
I'm here on the
I'll be-
TV side.
I'll bring the party spirit every day up until it.
Okay. All right. All right. You will be with us in spirit.
Yep.
In the meantime, the coverage again began last night with our extended Panthers on the Plus. Our Nick Carboni talked to Mr. T-Bone.
T-Bone.
From Sports Talk Radio
WFNZ.
here in Charlotte.
Yep.
Talking game time. What do we need? What do we want? We want to win. So let's play this for you. If you missed it last night here on WCNC Plus, we're going to play this for you now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Panthers on the Plus, our weekly breakdown of the prior weekend's Panthers contest. Unfortunately, we come to you with a stinging loss that stings double. The Panthers dropping their home game to the Seattle Seahawks 27-10 Sunday afternoon at Bank of America Stadium. Meanwhile, apparently unbeknownst to them, the Miami Dolphins were beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so a win for Carolina would have meant they wrapped up a playoff spot, their first in 8 years, and they would have done it with a week to spare. Instead, it comes down to Week 18, the final game of the season. We will be on every single night leading up to that game, and we will be on the night of the game. That's how big this is for the Carolina Panthers, biggest game in the better part of a decade. Last Monday night, we talked to WFNZ morning co-host Chris McLean, otherwise known as Mac. So in the interest of equal time, we did have to bring in, we were required to bring in Travis T-Bone Hancock, his co-host. T-Bone joining us. I just want to be clear, this is not a hostage situation. I don't see much behind you. Are you safe, sir?
This is the Panthers interrogation room. I'm a witness, as I was there yesterday, as you were too, to what happened. Did you say my co-host was on last week? He was on first?
He was. Listen, I have you guys both in a text thread. He couldn't do Sunday because he had a big Olive Garden birthday dinner for little Mac S. But listen, I just wanted really people to know your real names. You do have real names. Travis Hancock.
Yeah, Mac and Bone has a little more than, say, Chris and Travis does, right? Chris and Travis doesn't really. That sounds more of like a, maybe a early 2000s boy band that maybe we all listen to more so than radio than that. But I'm here to clean up the pieces, whatever. Matt, did you notice Matt came on last week, then the Panthers don't show up the next game.
So that's why we had you on this week, because we know how this goes with this team. They're due for the victory after the loss. All right, so let me get to, you were at the game yesterday, but you were not where I was in the kind of sanitized, quiet press box. You were amongst the people. I just want to know from somebody who's been here for a long time what that atmosphere felt like.
That felt like when you got there, like leading up to the game, like walking into the stadium and the keep pounding chant. And I've been there previous years of the last decade, and it's very sanitized, and it's a lot of like, oh my goodness, how can this go wrong? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yesterday before the game, it felt like there was hope. There was anticipation. We weren't worried about how many fans were there from the other team. It felt good to be back in an environment where the game mattered. But, you know, what happened too, though, was when the offense doesn't give you very much, you have to, you know, you can't rely just on the good vibes for an entire afternoon. So this is not a game where we blame the fans. They were there. They were ready to go. They just had so little to cheer. Even in the elements yesterday, the rain and the cold, the fans were there, although it was very much a Seattle weather game. Like they were like bathing in that yesterday. But no, it was a very fun environment. It's just the team didn't do enough to keep it alive for 4 quarters.
All right, so you and Mac are always the first ones we hear from after the morning after a game. 6 o'clock on WFNZ.
Usually Mac yelling, actually, and I try to talk.
You guys kick it off, and you guys are kind of you guys kind of have a barometer of where the fan base is at, and it's an interesting day because you have this loss and another blown opportunity, but then in 6 days on Saturday you have the opportunity of the last 10 years. So like, where were the fans' heads at this morning when you guys were kind of on and you see the text line and you hear from them? Were they more kind of mired in what happened against the Seahawks, or just like the team, like we got to flush it and move on?
I think it was a mixed bag. I think part of it was that anytime they lose, it becomes an indictment on Canales, on Avero, on Bryce. That becomes a dominant point of topics. Obviously, I get it. But then there was a portion of the fan base today, and I think that our attitude today was, look, yeah, the loss was bad, but like let's tip our hats to the team that they lost to, who looks like a legit Super Bowl contender. Their defense is out of this world. I'm not excusing the performance, but when you look at how the Panthers performed yesterday versus how Tampa performed, there's a big difference in losing to Seattle, who's red hot, and losing to Tampa, who's been rolling in the wrong direction now for about 8 weeks or so. So I think if you just pointed at the loss, you could get mired in the negativity. But if you take a step back and realize they've done this now 10 straight weeks of win one, lose one.
Yeah.
And the fact that it doesn't appear that, I think what helped today, Nick, was it doesn't appear like Tampa's getting that back. Like they're playing out the string. I don't know if they quit. I don't know what it is. And they've also got the pressure on them of being the team that's supposed to be in this, or not in this spot, but they're supposed to be in the playoffs. The Panthers are not. So I think when you take a step back, you know, you can be negative about the game, but yesterday's game, as we said all morning, really with this team has nothing to do with the next game. They're not a week-to-week team. Oh, they are a week-to-week team, but it's a completely different operation week-to-week. So what they looked like yesterday, it's not going to matter on Saturday at 4:30.
All right, before we move on, that is kind of like the microcosm of the whole season, right? Like it's progress. You're 8-8, right? But then it's disappointment because you haven't taken advantage of all these opportunities. How do you kind of process the season so far? And I saw the question today: is it disappointing or a failure if you lose this game? I would say it's a failure, but man, you've had so many chances to overtake the Bucs down the stretch here.
I would say, I don't want to go back to our old friends here, but it's a missed opportunity. I think
it is. Yeah, Ron was right.
It's a missed
ahead of his time.
opportunity, especially if it's one thing if Tampa's been rolling and it's like, oh yeah, there they go. But I don't think it's a disappointment. They were at 2 wins a couple years ago. Then they went to 5, then they went to 8. It reminds me of the Hornets under Borrego when they went 20, 30, 40, and they started to progress upwards. So I think that, yeah, we'll look at it in a small vacuum as, hey, it's a disappointment they didn't get in. But then I think once we step back, we'll say, yeah, they're a little bit ahead maybe of schedule for this particular part of this build, although there's been many here. They're like Chip and Joanna from our friends at HGTV, who they keep on building. They keep on building like the amount of hotels they're trying to build in Charlotte right now. But no, it never stops. But to go from 2 to 5 to 8, and it's not a finished product yet, I think we have to look at it that way, that they're going to add more pieces. They're not done yet. They're not paying the quarterback right now a ton of money. They have resources to go out and get more. So I think that this is just the start. Now, if they go win 8 games again next year, then we start to look at it and say, why are they not progressing? But they did make a move forward. Can they get to 10 next year or whatever it may be? And that's how we have to look at it. So I think we'd be disappointed in the result, but not ultimately the fact that this team did get to 8 wins. We would die for that the last couple of years to get to 8 wins.
All right, 15 seconds. I need you to hit post, Radio's T-Bone. What was it like in the crowd? No scores for Miami, Tampa on the scoreboard, but everybody knew. Like, were they yelling at Dave Canales to be more aggressive?
No, there was none of that talk. I was the guy that had the phone out on. I was updating the section on the score. It didn't feel like people were more into the Panthers than it was. I think we all kind of knew that Tampa was losing, but I didn't even notice. I did kind of look up and think, I knew what they were doing with the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. But now in 2025, we all just look at our phones anyway. So it's like, we know the players can't see it, but we all know what's going on. I did think it was interesting towards the end of the game when it got to be when Seattle was having one of their final drives, because I was right there at the goalpost in the end zone seat. So I was looking at the defense was huddled up, right? And I noticed that they all started to look up at they were all looking at something. The defense was all looking up at something. And I don't think it was down and distant. I think they were kind of having a conversation what's Tampa Bay doing right now? Because they were all kind of looking around where's the score? They're trying to figure out what Tampa did. So yeah, it was interesting, but I think Ron Rivera did that as well in 2015 when they were trying to clinch against Atlanta. So this is not something new. We're just not used to scoreboard watching, Charles. Usually we're scoreboard watching for draft positioning. Not trying to win a division, right?
Only one scoreboard matters this Saturday. That's the one at Raymond James Stadium. We're going to have more with T-Bone coming up, talking Panthers Bucks Week 18. Welcome back to Panthers on the Plus, talking about this winner-take-all matchup between the Panthers and Buccaneers Saturday afternoon in Tampa with WFNZ morning co-host Travis T-Bone Hancock. T-Bone, listen, the Panthers may be 500 on the season and alternate wins and losses every week, but they just seem to still be trending in the right direction, despite that kind of idle record. The Bucs, when they walked off the field last week at Bank of America Stadium, they looked like a broken football team to me. Can they fix it in one game?
I honestly, you keep waiting for that moment to happen where the Buccaneers look like they're that team that's one of the better teams in the NFC. I think Baker being injured and whatever he's playing through is a big factor because obviously he's the heart and soul of that team. But you keep waiting for it to pick it up. I actually predicted last Monday on the show when I was on that I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins beat the Buccaneers because we've seen before in the NFL, these teams that start to snowball in a negative direction, it can be really hard just to turn it on, especially after 8 weeks. The Buccaneers' only win in the last 2 months is over Arizona by 3. And if you go back to the beginning of the season, I know Tampa Bay beat San Francisco and Seattle, but if you look at their first 3 games, they rallied against the Falcons in week 1, who are not very good. We know Houston is good, but they beat them by 1 when they weren't that great. And then they beat the Jets by 2 in that crazy game where Aaron Glenn did the sideline meme. So they're very close to having 4 or 5 wins type of season. And they've never gotten it back. And I don't know. I keep waiting for it to happen, but it doesn't seem like it is. I don't know if there's internal turmoil, pressure on Todd Bowles. I don't know what it is, but the Panthers, despite being so inconsistent, at least they're inconsistent. The Buccaneers are just consistently bad right now, and I don't know if they can get that back in a short period of time. Not even a full week. They haven't got it back in 2 months. Do we think they're going to get it back in 6 days? Hard pressed to see that right now, to be honest.
I think the narrative around Baker Mayfield, and this probably goes back to his college days, is when his back is up against the wall, that's when he comes through. Is that the Baker Mayfield we've been watching the last 8 weeks?
It doesn't appear so. I don't know if the injuries mounted for him and then the team around him, but it doesn't feel like against the Panthers a couple weeks ago and before that, it looks like he's still able to make the throws he needs to, but he looks like the old Baker when he gets pressured. He's almost – I didn't see much of the game yesterday, to be honest. I was at the Panthers game. We'll watch it this week. But it feels like he's succumbing to the pressure around him again where he's trying to avoid the hit. So I think we're going to find out after the season, kind of like we do during like the NHL playoffs. We're going to find out that he's got like this injury and he played through this. I truly wonder like how injured he actually is. And the fact that he's injured and a Todd Bowles defense is awful. They can't. They're not picking him up either. It's not like, all right, Baker's injured, we're gonna do what we do. They're bad everywhere basically. And I don't think Bucky Irvin getting hurt this year helped them out because he's such a big part of what they do. And him missing all that time that he missed, it's just eventually you are who you are. And the Buccaneers are exactly who we think they are right now. That's not a good thing for the Buccaneers.
Conversely, T-Bone, the Panthers, I mean, Bryce Young, it's jarring to look at 54 passing yards in a professional football game. This is going to sound weird to say, it didn't really jump out at me until I saw midway through the third quarter he had 16 because I wasn't like, he looks bad. I was like, they all look bad. How concerning was it that they looked that bad against the Seahawks, but how optimistic are you that they can take advantage of that Buccaneers secondary?
Yeah, it was a little weird because when I was in the stands, it was raining, so I didn't have my phone out as much looking at the stats. And then I finally looked at Bryce's passing yards, and I was like, oh.
They should have taken that off the scoreboard.
It's like they stopped updating the stats. It's like, wait, he's only got 16 passing yards? Like, we all started to laugh. We're like, where did the rest of his numbers go? I mean, I think it's a combination of stuff yesterday. Bryce has 10 interceptions, and 7 have come in the losses. So yesterday, I think, was a combination of Bryce. Play calling was not good. The wideouts, they need to improve that still, despite going first round the last 2 years. And Seattle's defense, I really think, is that good. And I think that once they showed they weren't moving the ball downfield yesterday aggressively at all, Seattle could just pin their ears back, and it was all east-west. It was all going side to side. There was nothing north-south. I think yesterday is an example of how pedestrian the wideouts are. XL, we love him. He doesn't do anything as a wideout, really, in terms of being a playmaker you have to scheme for the other team. He blocks, but his football awareness is bad. I think T-Mac was compromised by the illness yesterday. They don't have a tight end. They were 1 for 11 on third down yesterday. They need to figure out a tight end that can get him out of some jams here every once in a while.
Sanders out for the season. That doesn't help. Yeah, and
I think part of it is on Bryce. I think, no doubt, he's over 54 yards. It's the 6th worst yardage passing game in the history of the franchise. Now, fitting enough for the Panthers, in the previous 5 lowest games, they were 3-2 in those games. The 2 lowest games ever, they won those games. It was Chris Weinke in a game where they only ran the Wildcat in 2006, and then Sam Darnold, fitting enough, against New Orleans last game he played here, January of 23. They beat New Orleans, and he had 43 yards in that game. But yesterday was not like that, and I think that there's got to be an aggressive mindset, Nick, and I do wonder, like, does Canales show up a little bit when things aren't going well and play a more conservative approach? Because I don't know what you saw yesterday. It's not like Bryce missed a couple, but I don't remember too many shots yesterday either. It wasn't Bryce missed.
I think the turnovers are their biggest concern. That's going to happen, and it ended up happening.
Yeah, I just don't remember a whole lot of they missed one, they missed one, they missed one. It was all east-west for the most part. So I don't even know where the pie chart of blame. It's kind of hard to figure out. Is that because Canales didn't trust Bryce? Canales didn't trust the wideouts? Canales didn't trust himself. I don't know what was going on yesterday, but it was a weird offensive day nonetheless.
So we seem to have a different quarterback and different play caller on the Panthers sideline every single week. So hopefully it'll be the good version of both next week. And we're going to talk about that Bucs-Panthers matchup one more time with a playoff spot on the line coming up here with T-Bone. Welcome back to Panthers on the Plus here Monday night. We're talking to Travis T-Bone Hancock from WFNZ. You can catch him on the morning there with his buddy Mac. Starting at 6 a.m., right, Travis? I'm a new dad, but I'm still not quite up and listening by 6. I probably should.
Yeah,
probably
6
should
to
tune
10
you guys in.
a.m. 6 to 10 a.m. Mac and I will be back on Friday to preview the Buccaneers game. We'll still have shows on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, just not Mac and myself. And Apple and Spotify, I'm sure Nick can attest, as an avid listener on the podcast. You can always check back in on various platforms, so you can catch us wherever in this day and age. So,
dude, you're on my Spotify rep. That's how special you guys are to me. So I got you.
Yeah, how about that? Very nice. We appreciate
my average
that.
listening age is 69 years old, though, so I don't know what that says about your show.
That's my average dinner time age. And that's what they calculate me as a 70-year-old, which is exciting because of the game on Saturday, 4:30 kick,
Perfect.
right? But yet right in my dinner time house. I can't wait for the Saturday.
All right, man. You've been here for a while. What would a division championship followed by a home playoff game mean to this franchise, to this fan base, to this city?
It would mean everything. We had some guy today try to text into our show and say, "Why do you want to go to the playoffs? I don't care if they get in and lose by 20." With what we've seen really since you've been here covering, doing a great job for NBC Charlotte.
My record is poor, isn't it?
How many big Panther games have you seen at the bank? So it would just be cool. And you know what? For a team that is still trying to add more, this isn't like one of those where it's why do you want to get in and lose? No, they probably need to get in and see what happens to learn how to lose. It's like the Hornets and stuff like that as well. You want that franchise to get in. You want Bryce, you want Horn, you want Derek Brown, you want the core players to experience that. So I don't care what the result is of the game. I mean, we care, but ultimately it doesn't matter to me if they lost. You get in and you win a division title, that's going to go a long way. No, that's going to make David Tepper happy as well, because if things spiral for too long in one direction, you worry does he get antsy with some things. So a playoff berth, I think, would mean a lot for the organization, the fans, the future. No, I think it means a ton to do this. And a year where we thought Tampa ran away and hid with the whole thing, and they clearly did not.
Hey, if they make the playoffs, David Tepper may talk to us again. That would be nice.
You know what? That would be something, right?
All right. So speaking of the temperature of the fan base, which you guys obviously have there in the mornings, with all the letdowns this year and with all the letdowns in big games in the past, does this team trust? Does this fan base trust their team in this game? Do you think?
I think part of it, and we've talked about it a lot. It turned out to be a joke. A couple weeks ago, we're like, well, if they beat Tampa the first game, then they're going to lose to Seattle.
Yep.
Then they'll beat Tampa, and then they'll lose in the playoffs. The trend was funny for a while, but it has really played out to where it's no, it's a real thing. So I trust that whatever reason they don't do well with prosperity, but they do better once they've been doubted. I don't know why that is. But I think they'll play well. And as I said when we started talking, there's all the pressure on Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles, we'll see how hot that seat gets there in the offseason. Mike Evans, by the way, free agent. Is this it for him in Tampa? Hopefully, from a Panther perspective, get him out of there. But it's all the pressure to be at home in a year where you look like you might be one of the best in the NFC. The fact that you now have a team that's been a doormat for a decade coming into your place, to me, it's all. We always talk about pressure situations. Where does the pressure lie in certain games? And I think in this one, it's all on Tampa. And hopefully the Panthers come out loose and they don't get tight like we talked about. And hopefully Canales, has a little bit of an aggressive mindset. Not on the 4 downs. He does that, but hopefully that, they're willing to take some shots down the field if they can in this game. That's on the wideouts. But I would hope that the Panthers can come out a little more aggressive and say, you know what? No one thought we were going to be here. We're here. And you know what? Get an early lead on Tampa. And let them – if you get an early lead on Tampa in this game, you get an early touchdown, 7-0, they're ready to go to Cabo. They're ready to pack this whole thing up. So an early lead in this game, I don't know what Tampa has left in terms of fight, to be honest with you.
All right, 2 minutes left. What concerns you the most about this matchup? What gives you the most hope?
I think it goes into what you were talking about earlier, like, at some point you would think that Baker back against the wall would, finally say enough of this, and he's going to come out like, Braveheart on his horse and do something here. I think anytime you play Tampa, I know that he didn't have a lot of yards last game, but Mike Evans is like an all-time, Panther worry.
He's got
so
the
do you
triple
worry
crown
about him having one
against the
last
Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got like nearly 1,700 yards and 16 touchdowns in 22 games against the Panthers. I know they did a good job last time besides one touchdown, and you know what? I think J.C. Horn has to be at his best. He's got a little bit of a reputation right now where they're watching him for some of these penalties. So I think J.C. Horn has to play like the Pro Bowler. He's got a lot of some penalties here and there, some mistakes. JC's got to be at his best, especially with all the wideouts that Tampa has. That they did a good job with last time, but their wideouts are a concern for sure.
What gives you the most hope? Little less than a minute left.
The most hope is that Tampa has just mailed it in and they're not going to get it back. That they're ready to go. Whatever's going on internally, we don't know. But the hope would be that Tampa is just ready to get it out of the system with the Panthers. A guy like Derek Brown, what is this going to mean for him?
Yeah.
Guys like that have been through the battles. That I think this is going to mean. The hope is this means a lot more for the Panthers and where they are than Tampa, who is kind of like, how the hell did we get here?
All right, Travis T-Bone Hancock from WFNZ. You can hear him at 6 every morning. It sounds like Friday's your next one, getting us ready for this big game Saturday afternoon. T-Bone, thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Anytime. Appreciate you.
All right, that is it for Monday night's Panthers on the Plus. But don't forget, we will be back again tomorrow night and every night this week, and also during the Panthers-Bucks game, and hopefully after a big Panthers victory Saturday evening. We'll see you then.
All right. Quick reminder for you. Nick said, every night, 9 o'clock here on WCNC Plus, extended coverage, Panthers on the Plus, bonus coverage on the road to taking on the Bucks this Saturday in Tampa. We're going to join Danielle Stein, who is going to be in Tampa starting on Friday. And a reminder, there's going to be a first for us. It'll be fun. You see those podcasts and whatnot where, like the Mannings, Peyton and Eli.
The Manning cast.
The Manning cast.
Yep.
They
do
kiki.
Monday. They have guests on. It's all fun and laughs.
While they're
and
watching Monday Night Football.
And hoo-ha's.
Yeah. So we're going to do sort of our own version, but it's going to be a bigger party.
Right.
We're going to have
the Mannings when you have us.
It's a good thing we're not competing with the Mannings.
Right.
But that game night watch party is going to be right here at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Join us then, won't you? All right, you're invited to that. We're invited for more live Impact News after this quick break. You're watching WCNC Plus. Back at 10:39, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Let's get a check of weather. If you took a peek outside, look out your window, it is gorgeous, but it is cold. Chris Mulcahy with this earlier weather update for you on WCNC Plus.
Sometimes it's nice just to figure out where the bottom is. Do you know what? Up from here. That's exactly what we have for today's high. Not necessarily our lows. Tomorrow morning I think is going to be just as cold, if not colder, but I think the nice silver lining that we have here is that we got a little golden line across the horizon. Officially it's 7:31. Sunrise time. We got sunshine all day long. Yep, that's right. I got to bust out my all-day sunshine graphic. Usually when I'm showing you this, the number in the sun is a little bit higher, but instead 45 is going to be our top, and as I mentioned, that is the bottom for the week. Our wind alerts officially have dropped off. They cut off that high wind warning early. Some parts were going until 10 o'clock, but we can say that is now gone because no longer it's reaching the criteria, nor is it reaching the wind advisory criteria. However, even with those winds and those temperatures that are down into the teens, we still have a cold weather advisory for Avery, Watauga, and Ashe County. That means there's still a chance of it feeling like 5 below zero or colder. So here's the criteria, by the way. If you're ever going to be under one of these in the mountains, it's for that reason alone. If you live around Hickory, Lincoln, Salisbury, Rowan County, Iredell County, if it's 5 or less in the forecast, you're going to have a cold weather advisory. Charlotte is the max, 10 degrees or less, and then we'll have one of those. We've had one of those so far this season. Our highs today, 45, as I mentioned, is going to be the coldest. 27, that's your top around Boone. That's close to our low here in Charlotte. And then sunshine across the board with an on and off wind chill about 5 degrees colder than the actual air temperature. And if you're heading out for some evening eats, maybe tacos, that's what we're having. I'm very excited, always excited about the Alliteration Taco Tuesday. 36 feels like 33, 35 feels like 30, so that means throughout the evening it'll feel about 2 to 5 degrees cooler if you're caught in that wind, especially say in an open parking lot. Later on this evening, I think once the tacos have been consumed and maybe you're having a taco nap, you're dealing with clouds starting to increase through the overnight, and that's going to lead to a decrease for another sunny start for your Wednesday. The last Wednesday, the last day of the year, few clouds for the afternoon, and then we are closing 2025's book in a good way. Tomorrow we have a high of 53. For the first day of 2026, can't believe I'm saying that, 2026, 60 degrees with an above freezing start. But here's what New Year's Eve looks like. Temperatures are going to be right around 40 degrees. I think a lot of us in the upper 30s certainly feeling that way as we're chiming in the new year, but likely your New Year's Eve party is going to be indoors. As far as our next rain chance goes, I think we have an equal chance on Friday night heading into Saturday morning, and then outside of that, we don't have another rain chance until about day 9 or 10 of the forecast. Our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast shows, again, this is the coldest day, and then all the other days over the next 7 will be 8 to 15 degrees warmer than what we have today. Enjoy it.
Sure was windy earlier this week, though, wasn't it? Our Brittany Van Voorhees doing a weather IQ, combining the wind and the chill and why it's so. She's got the science behind it all. There's her report now for you on Live Impact News.
Hi, everyone, and happy Monday, and welcome to Live Weather Impact on WCNC Plus. If it feels like you haven't seen us here in the studio for a while, it's because you haven't. Holiday schedules, people being off, craziness happening, it happens like that. But after 3 days, I guess not 3 days in a row, but 3 days last week of record highs here in Charlotte. What I can't guarantee you is maybe not that everybody will be here this week, but I can guarantee you that a cool down here is coming across the Charlotte area. So let's start with looking at the mountains, because they have some man-made snow over the past few weeks and also some that they've been making themselves. This is at the bottom there of Beech Mountain there near the Beech Mountain Parkway. Honestly, it looks like a winter wonderland, and tonight it's going to feel that way. You can see decked out still in holiday decor. I know Christmas is over, but don't worry. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day still coming up here in just a few days. So would be very cold, but really nice next few days if you are planning on heading up to the mountains to any of our local resorts, or just a few nice fun days, maybe Blowing Rock and Banner Elk. There you go as you swing off again toward Beech Mountain resort there. You can see that they're making their snow, making some, using all of that moisture and cold that they're getting there from Mother Nature right now. So what's going on out there right now? Well, no matter if you're in the mountains, you're here in the Charlotte area, it is breezy, it is windy, and it's already starting to turn colder. Big Arctic blast is moving in really right now, but mainly going to feel it on Tuesday. And then, of course, Wednesday, we will eventually start to trend a little bit bit closer to average for this time of year. But first things first, let's look at what weather advisories we have in effect. Now, this is only cold weather alerts. It does not include the wind alerts we have right now, but there is a cold weather advisory in effect for Ashe, Watauga, Avery counties, so our 3 mountain counties. That's essentially for an air temperature between 5 to 10 degrees. Does not have anything to do with the wind chill, which is going to be a lot lower in those areas overnight. Now, of course, the wind chill is worse because of the fact that it's going to get cold, but also very, very gusty. Wind gusts up in the mountains tonight are going to still gust between about 45 to 60 miles an hour in places like Ashe and Watauga County, as well as Avery County. And then if you notice, there's a wind advisory in effect for Caldwell and Burke, Greater Caldwell Burke, which is essentially those higher elevation spots at about 2,500 feet and above. Those areas are going to see wind gusts around 50 or so miles an hour. So regardless of how high it's going to be, you know that the wind is going to cause it to feel much colder. And just a good reminder as to what the wind chill is, because as much as I love you guys, without fail, every single time there's a big wind chill factor, we will get a message. It doesn't matter if it's a phone call, an email, a Facebook message, an Instagram DM, whatever it is, asking us to use the actual air temperature and not the feels like. I want to remind people that this is a scientific calculation based off of what our bodies feel when wind moves across our body. So right now, it's pretty warm in here. It was warm in the studio, which is why I'm wearing a cutoff shirt. But let's say my arm's exposed, I'm going outside. As the wind moves across my body, similar to when we get goosebumps, heat is released from my body because of that brief little brush of the wind. Okay? It's more aggressive. The stronger the winds are, the less the wind is, the little less aggressive it is. That's where the wind chill comes from. Because our bodies release heat back into the atmosphere, that's why it feels colder. So just a good reminder that it's not a random number that Brittany Van Voorhees or Brad Panovich just decides to put up because we feel like it. It is there for a reason, which is why when the winds are higher and the air is colder, those numbers are much more significant. And speaking of significant, wind gusts are continuing to be very high up in the mountains. Right now we have 53 that is in Boone, 64 in Jefferson, with the highest wind gust so far today in Charlotte at 45. Even the sustained winds are still pretty high here in the Queen City, 16 miles an hour, temperature at 44 right now with that wind chill at 37. Again, Brittany is not saying a wind chill of 37 because she wants a wind chill of 37, although because of the wind chill of 37, I got my jacket right here. It's because that is the scientific calculation based on 44 and 16. There's a National Weather Service wind chill chart. If you ever want to check it out, it's right there on weather.gov. Now, speaking of wind chill, speaking of feels like temperatures, these are going to be pretty low tonight, especially in the mountains. Those are the areas where the wind chills will be dangerous at times. Between about 5 to 10 below zero, especially at higher elevations above 3,500 feet. That's places like Beech Mountain, Sugar Mountain, Banner Elk, Blowing Rock. Anywhere there or above in elevation will be at those lowest numbers. Now, Tuesday morning is going to be the coldest, but there is still a wind chill factor as well on Wednesday morning, which is the last morning 2025. Hard to believe it's upon us, but 23 in Charlotte and at least single digits, so a little bit warmer, let's say, for those mountain communities. Now, today is Monday. It's also December 29th. So we know tomorrow's going to be cold. We know Wednesday's still going to be chilly in the morning. But what happens in the afternoon? What happens in the evening? Well, if you're not working, like myself and my friends here in the studio, Sean and James, you might be going out and about for the New Year's holiday. Wednesday is New Year's Eve. Well, if you do so, you're going to need a jacket. Now, maybe a light jacket in the afternoon because a high temperature of 50 with sunshine, especially if you're spending a lot of time outside, feels pretty comfortable. But in the morning, or I guess in the evening, if you're going out and about with your stilettos maybe at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., whatever it is, I don't know. I don't go out anymore for the new year. Still going to be chilly, y'all. 30s, 40s, so make sure you are putting any cute outfits you have on, maybe some tights underneath, maybe a cute little jacket above. I feel like, Sean, men can put any jacket with any outfit and it still looks good, so that's pretty lucky for you guys. So that's the forecast for Wednesday and Thursday. Last day of 2025, first day of 2026. Long range, not a lot of significant changes. We do see a big drop in temperatures, of course, tomorrow, but then it's pretty mild the rest of the week. Next chance of rain comes with a storm system, briefly bringing us a raindrop Friday night and into Saturday morning. As of right now, it does not look like it will impact the Panthers game, or I guess that's technically in Tampa, so I guess actually that's not true. It doesn't necessarily not matter. I was thinking about this. It will not impact a lot of people who might be watching the game here in Charlotte, is what I meant to say. But down in Tampa, because that cold front actually expands all the way up and down the southeast, there could be some showers. We'll be in the 50s here. They'll be in the 70s. So neither place has a chance, though, of seeing snow for that game. Of course, again, 4:30 on Saturday. Long-range forecast does start to trend a little bit warmer, so this cool down we're seeing doesn't last forever. You can see the long range. This is the 8 to 14-day outlook. The 6th through the 12th looks warmer than average. Remember, those averages, of course, are 53 and 33 respectively, and do ebb and flow here and there as we get closer to the beginning of January. But again, that 8 to 14-day outlook is going to be notably warmer than normal, and it doesn't look like we're going to see a lot of rain here in the near-term forecast. Give me a second, folks, because our computer system logged me out briefly, which happens every once in a while, but I can tell you without even needing to look at the map that, again, we're warmer than average here as you look at 6 to 12, and then let's see if we can get it up in time. Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Drier than average for the 6th to the 12th when it comes to 8 to 14-day precipitation. And just a reminder, I know we're going into a new year, but of course we're still dealing with drought conditions left over from 2025. So here's your brief hourly forecast for tomorrow. Again, it's the coldest morning and coldest afternoon we'll see this week. We're starting in the 20s. Feels like temperatures closer to 20, 40s in the afternoon, but it probably doesn't feel any warmer than, let's say, 39 for the peak throughout the entirety of the day. So here's a long-range forecast again tomorrow. Coldest start to the morning, coldest afternoon. We will start to trend a little bit more mild Wednesday and Thursday morning. Again, notice it's not the temperature we're talking about Tuesday and Wednesday comparatively. It's the feels like. So even though technically Wednesday morning could be a little bit colder, the wind chill won't be as aggressive. 52 in the afternoon on December 31st. A rinse-repeat forecast for the first day of the new year. And then again, there's that brief chance of rain coming in on Saturday, but doesn't look to impact your afternoon's forecast at all. And again, long range, we just showed you warmer and a little bit drier, but of course, we're going to talk more about this coming up with the one, the only, Tim Buckley from WFMY. We'll be right back after this break.
And we'll take a real break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 10:51. Back here now at Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. Earlier, as we started this morning portion of the stream, Sheriff Gary McFadden joined us for our weekly visit, talked about a couple of things. It is a little bit of a lengthy one. We only have about 6-7 minutes, but we'll start to play this for you again here on Live Impact News. Right here at the top of the hour, as we continue to follow up on the officer-involved shooting in Mint Hill, we do know that 2 officers involved in that shooting are now recovering at home, but a suspect is now dead after what should have been a routine child custody exchange. Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden joining us this morning live in the Impact Studio. Appreciate your time. Thanks for making this stop your first one of your day. Busy day.
Good morning. Thank you.
Sheriff, so what was your reaction when you heard about this incident, and what does this tell us about the dangers of these custody battles?
Well, these are the dangers that officers face each and every day. Custody battles has a lot of emotion, and oftentimes we are not there. It's just parents meeting in the parking lot, or parents meeting at a grocery store or a secluded area like parks. And so on this incident, we don't have all the details. I don't have all the details. But custody battles are always volatile because it's a lot of emotion involved. You're meeting parents and they're exchanging the kids, and you know they may bring their significant other or other person that are in their lives that cause it to be more volatile than previous. And so we all know in law enforcement these kinds of incidents happen often. Maybe not to the death or the violence, but it always happened with controversial issues between the parents.
I mean, the county does have at least one solution. They have the supervised visitation and safe exchange since 2014. Do you know if people are using this, and what can be another solution for safe exchanges?
Some people are using it, but we asking them to do it even more. When I was with CMPD, we actually had the exchange in the parking lot between the building and the parking deck. And so people feel safe. The person who's handing off the child feels safe. But oftentimes, the other person wants to meet someplace else where they can have this conversation, they can have this argument, and really bring them to an isolated area to say and do whatever they want to do. So we're asking people to think about where you're meeting this other person.
Yeah, I mean, so we do know Jamel Hamlin, the second, was killed in the incident right now. Do you have any information on any priors about this man?
No, I don't. I don't at this time.
All right. Moving on then. I want to shift to another tragedy occurring that same day of the Mint Hill officer-involved shooting. Your office announcing the death of Jason Hicks, a 42-year-old man who was in custody at the detention center. Can you walk us through what happened on that morning, the day after Christmas?
Well, we can't give you the details of the actual incident, but Mr. Hicks was discovered having complication, and our medical staff responded and saw that he was in a crisis, and then they transported him to the medical facility where he passed. But what we tell people, we want the audience to understand, these deaths does not happen at the hands of my deputies or my officers. People come to our facility in poor health, having conditions that are unknown to them before they arrive, or they come with a condition. You know, we have expecting mothers, females, to come to our facility, begin to have a crisis of birth. We transport them to the hospital, the baby is born, and then they come back to the facility. And you have to understand that we are not a medical facility, we are a detention center. So most of these people come in with long-term diseases, long-term crisis, with medical equipment attached to them, and we still have to take care of them.
We know that the SBI is investigating as standard procedure. What specifically do they look at? I know your office is cooperating with them as well.
What they do is look at actually the scene where the person died, or the scene previous where he died, which is the detention center. So they start an investigation just as a death investigation to make sure that everything was followed. They interview our deputies, they interview the staff who was around, the medical staff, and then they look into the actual person's life, what he was arrested for, charges, and all of that, just as you would do if a person dies somewhere else. So they're just doing the protocol of the investigation.
And I mean, this happening, of course, during the holidays even makes that more heartbreaking, and notifying the families in the case. And this also brings up a bigger picture, Sheriff, about evictions of residents during the holidays. news. Talk to me a little bit about what your office is seeing.
Well, the holiday season is always filled with emotion, a lot of joy, but then also a lot of pain. And so during our holiday season, a lot of people are evicted from their home. I believe that the Monday after Christmas, we evicted over 198 people from their homes. This past Monday, we had another large eviction where it was 180 plus